It took one doctor. That's two. Doctors need to learn to listen to their patients instead of just putting a stereotype on them. It's making a noise. I'm going to try to make this not too long. I would like you to watch it all, and I will do my best to make it bearable. I've been in pain my whole life, I've been in and out of physio my whole life, and I've been in and out of counselling and therapy for my whole life. And it was kind of been dismissed my whole life. When you're growing up and you go to your parents, my legs are hurting, it always gets called growing pains. Pain growing up is kind of normalised. I started going to the doctor in search of answers for my pain when I started secondary school. It started with them agreeing with pretty much everyone I'd spoken to about pain as it's growing pains. But when I stopped growing at 5'2", I stopped believing them. But at the time, when they were calling it growing pains and I was growing, I just took it. I didn't have the support network that I do now. I hadn't got into social media at all, so I didn't know that there could be something else wrong. I was young and naive, and I thought the doctor would say if something was wrong and that they know best. When they couldn't blame it on growing pains anymore, they looked at the scars on my arm and blamed it on depression. You know, depression can cause physical symptoms too. Yes, it can. Like decrease in appetite, it can make you tired, it can make you... I am not denying that depression can have physical effects on people. But I've been in pain for longer than I've had depression. So it didn't seem like a good answer to me. They didn't say, hey look, you can try CBT, or you can try antidepressant therapy, or you can just try diet and exercise. They gave me none of that. They said, oh, it's depression, bye. So they left a depressed 14-year-old thinking that there's nothing they can do and this is just their life now. On my own, I recovered from self-harm. Yay. They couldn't blame it on my depression anymore. So they latched onto my other symptoms, my nausea, my heart palpitations, my dizziness, my breathing difficulties from cold urticaria, bad memory, cognitive issues. At the time they saw a young woman that experienced similar symptoms kind of every day and thought, oh, they must be hysterical. Let's blame it on anxiety. I'm not nervous, I'm not worried, I'm not anxious, I'm just in pain. But no, apparently that meant I must have anxiety. And then my pain skyrocketed. I don't know what happened, but I got my first cane and I started having to use it at school, at college. I needed support. I'm not even thinking like painkillers at this point, I'm thinking I cannot walk without pain. Help me. So I went to a doctor and I said that. And I got my first referral to physio. In my first physio appointment, this angel of a physiotherapist assessed me, she watched me walk, she watched me stand, she gave me a physical exam. She took my Baton score, which was at the time 5 out of 9. And she said, like hell, this is just anxiety, come on. And she wrote to my doctor suggesting a systemic physical disorder. But at that eureka moment, I needed to move to university. I have talked about my chronic illness journey at university before, so I will put that up here. Can't remember exactly what point this happened, but I eventually got myself back to the doctor and I managed to get a referral to rheumatology. Yay. I had one blood test. That was it. Not even during my depression, anxiety, let's blame it on mental health thing, not once did they check my blood. So my new GP at university took my blood and then sent that with my referral to rheumatology. It was at this point, I've mentioned before in previous videos, so it's in my chronic illness at university and this Flogging with Cold Urticaria episode, which I will also put in the card above. I had severe shoulder pain, this shoulder. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't carry my bag around uni, I couldn't sit, I couldn't lie down, it just hurt so much. Brought me to tears every day, but let's not dwell on that. But that was the thing that got me to the rheumatology appointment because I could not lift it past here. So I get to rheumatology, he wanted to see my range of movement. So he was reading on the computer, reading his notes up here like this. And they said, right, can you lift your arms for me? So I did. One could go all the way up here, one could go to here. And without even looking up from his computer screen, he said, oh, your range of movement seems normal. Alright. He looked at my blood tests, and these tests had looked for a whole range of things. They did a small inflammatory panel, they looked at vitamin D levels, they looked at general kind of, nutrient levels, all of that kind of stuff, but it was very basic blood tests. They weren't looking for anything specific. I had sort of low vitamin D, as a white person living in the UK where the weather is, as you can probably see by my lighting, not brilliant. And my C-reactive protein, so that is an inflammatory marker. If you want more on that, I can do a Science Sunday on it. My C-reactive protein was 45. Normal is about 10 or lower. So it was high, but nothing to write home about. And he asked about my pain, and I talked about, oh, I've got joint pain every day, my shoulder is killing me, but also my lower back kills me every single day. I'm really stiff when I wake up in the mornings, I feel sick constantly. I struggle with eating, like physically eating, I bloat really easily, I have lots of very strange allergies that make just eating food a challenge. There was a whole list of stuff, and it was a while ago, so I can't remember the exact list. He gave me a very brief physical exam, and by that he got me to lie down and felt my back, put his hands over my sacroiliac joint, so that is where your spine connects to your pelvic region. So my SI joints were tender, and he was like, I'm going to order an x-ray, but it's just to prove to you that there's nothing wrong with you and you're fine. My SI joints could not be seen through inflammation. Whoops. So I needed an MRI. I got my MRI appointment a while in the future, and then I had my MRI and it showed no inflammatory changes, but there was inflammation there. At no point did he ever actually look at my shoulder. It still causes me pain, not as much pain, but it can get pretty bad, and I still have no idea what's going on with it. After my MRI results got into him, he diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. I have a video up here, but I'll talk more about what I'm going to do with that later. Fibromyalgia is a pain without cause. It is a diagnosis of exclusion, which means, so you go in and they look at all the possibilities that it could be, all of the chronic pain conditions, and they rule all of those out, and once you've ruled all of those out, you can then be evaluated for things like fibromyalgia, ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's plenty of videos out there on what that is. And it has a weird collection of other symptoms, so nausea, dizziness, weird pain, different types of very specific pain, like pain from clothing, which I do get, inability to eat certain things, GI upsets, headaches, cognitive issues, memory impairments, all of that kind of thing. It got to a point in about 2017 where I couldn't walk without help. I was relying on a wheelchair just to get to university and do my day and get my degrees. At this point I had joined many chronic illness support groups. I was meeting all sorts of people with different chronic pain conditions, and most of them that I talked to, they were like, fibro? But no, that doesn't make sense for you. And I'm like, I'm starting to agree with you. And I looked into the correct diagnostic procedures for diagnosing somebody with fibromyalgia. One of the main things is you have to rule out everything else first, which you can't really do with one non-specific blood panel. And alongside that, they should be testing you for things like trigger points. This isn't like a major diagnostic criteria anymore, but while I was looking at it, it was. So yes, my symptoms had gone on for more than 3 months, and I had pain in multiple places and a really weird collection of other symptoms. But in my opinion, that wasn't enough to warrant my diagnosis of fibromyalgia. And having that diagnosis meant that any time I went to the doctor with pain in a new place, with a new severity, with any new symptom, they would just look at my notes, say, oh, you have fibro, it must be because fibro. And these symptoms, they often overlap with many other conditions that I'd never been evaluated for, they'd never been excluded. They'd just seen a young person and said, oh, probably nothing, it's just fibro, let's just write you off with that. I didn't really fulfill any of the main criteria at the time, and still. I dislocate fingers all the time, especially when I was pushing my wheelchair and playing wheelchair basketball. Things would just pop and like fingers would go backwards and sideways, and it was just wrong. My joint pain can be very easily triggered by hyperextending, which is very easy for me to do. I do it by accident many times a day. And bracing helps. My joints hurt and pop and crack all the time. Some of my videos I even put it in the captions. I have digestive problems, I have nausea, I have dizziness. When I stand up, my blood pressure goes down and my heart rate goes up. And so many people have said, that doesn't sound like fibro, that sounds like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I agree with them. So I went back to the doctor. And that was a great day to be assigned to a new doctor. I gave her a quick version of my medical history and why I thought I should be checked for EDS. And immediately, again without even examining me, she said, it's rare, probably not. I mean, you have fibro, but why are you using a cane? You're only 23. But I wasn't taking this anymore. Ooh, dramatic. I pushed back because I know my diagnosis hadn't been done properly and I would like to just be re-evaluated. There's no harm in just exploring the possibility, and it could just be something completely off the wall that I've not even heard of and thought of researching, but that is why I am going to the doctors with it and seeing, hey, can you look at my symptoms again because I think something might be wrong. If we explored it and found that it was definitely fibromyalgia, I was totally ready to accept that. She took blood again to prove me wrong, and when the results came in, I was given a rapid access appointment to a rheumatologist. And that appointment was 2 weeks ago. I discussed all of the concerns that I've just discussed in this video with him. There are so many resources on different symptoms of EDS. I compiled them and just kind of went through the list. So there's other things like dental overcrowding, papules on the back of your heels, weird scars, because I've got one here that just has, it was a tiny, teeny scratch and it took months and months to actually heal, and then it has scarred horrifically, and it doesn't make sense because it's just a little scratch. He listened to me just go off about like, look, this doesn't make sense, my current diagnosis doesn't make sense, this one makes a lot more sense, and I know I'm not the doctor here. He gave me a physical exam, and while he didn't look at all of the trigger points, he looked at the ones that he knows would cause a person with fibromyalgia to just be in so much pain. He squeezed my elbows. See, that's fine, I can do that. I can squeeze up here. I mean, this one isn't my favourite, it does hurt a bit, but I think that's just because I have shoulder issues. That is the only trigger point that I react to, and he was like, I think you might be right. I don't think you have fibro, and I think hypermobility explains your pain. And that is so relieving. He talked about other problems that EDS and hypermobility spectrum disorders cause, and it was like he was just recounting my entire life to me, but things that I hadn't listed in the laundry list. And he was telling me things about my own life that I didn't even realise were problems, or I just hadn't even noticed at all. So my ankle is just screwed. Like, I've been in and out of ankle supports for a while, and he took one look at my leg and said, oh, I know what's wrong with that, we can get you a different brace and fix that. And I'm like, ah. So as it stands, I don't have fibromyalgia. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But I've already made loads of videos about fibro, so oh, it's a bit awkward. He's referred me to a clinical geneticist as a precaution, just to rule out all of the vascular EDS types, or the ones that are really dangerous. But if they come back negative, or genetics just don't want to see me, because in his words, they're not really bothered by that sort of thing at the moment, it's going to be put down as hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I don't know if this counts as a formal diagnosis, but that's where I'm at with my chronic pain and chronic illnesses. I will update with that when I can, but it took one doctor. That's two. Because I was misdiagnosed for so long and told that, you know, you should just do stuff, I've caused permanent damage to my joints by just pushing through pain all the time. If I hadn't been dismissed, and if I had been looked at properly and diagnosed properly, at least some point during the last however long I've been in pain, 23 years of my life, I might not have caused that damage to my joints, and I might be in less pain. I could have used the right mobility aids, I could have given my joints the right support. It is a problem in the medical industry that we just dismiss young people that shouldn't be in pain. It just isn't okay. I don't need to have all of this extra joint damage that it was avoidable. But here we are, now just screwed up joints. I now know which exercises are safer and better for me, so I have taken up cycling because I cannot walk very far. It causes me so much pain, like the impact of every step. By the end of it, it just hurts. I could probably walk about a quarter of a mile and then I have to stop. But I can cycle so much more than that. I can cycle like 15 miles in a day and feel pretty fine, which is good. And now knowing that I don't have fibromyalgia, trying to get fit and healthy doesn't seem to be a futile activity. I feel like it's not like, oh, I don't have the spoons or my spoon count is going to be forever low. I feel more able to do stuff or to push myself, and I know it's going to hurt, and it's not saying that like I'm magically okay now, but knowing that I can push myself and grow from it or develop from it or adapt from it or get fitter from it, and not just, oh, I'm going to have to spend the next 3 days in bed and it's not going to mean anything because nothing's going to stay. I can improve on my fitness, which I'm excited for. And even now my trust in doctors is just not there. So even though I've had this brilliant rheumatologist actually just do his job and look at me and look at my symptoms and come to an agreement of what could be wrong, I'm still paranoid that as soon as I left the room he might have gone, huh, yeah, right. Or I'll get the letters of recommendation and genetics just won't want to see me and then be like, oh no, they don't, it's fine, just call it fibro. Or my GP will just be like, oh, well, we've been treating you for fibro, so have no pain medication at all. I'm not even on painkillers, just amitriptyline, which technically it's a painkiller, but it's not like a painkiller. I'll do another video on that. It's just really hard to trust that doctors that I come across in the future and moving forward are going to listen to me and they're going to help me. And I've been written off for 11 years, so I'm done, I'm over it, and I don't trust them not to do it again because there was nothing to stop them doing it the first time. Even with cold urticaria, it's well documented that that is an official diagnosis of mine, and yet we still have doctors thinking they know my body better than I do and injecting me with cold IVs. I talk a little bit about that in this video. And then wondering why I can't breathe and I'm itchy all over and I'm just struggling to hang on in there. It's not okay to dismiss your patients just because they're young, because you think they're female, because they're queer, because they're a person of colour. You shouldn't be doing that. As doctors, you can't look at somebody and say, oh, well, you don't really seem the type to be in real pain. Chronic pain doesn't have a type. And I know there are some diseases that are more prevalent in certain populations, but that doesn't mean that it's exclusive to those populations. There is no type for chronic illness, there is no type for disability, there is no type for chronic pain. But there is a type for dismissive doctors, and it just so happens to be about just 90% of you. And now I don't really know what to do with my fibromyalgia videos because I don't have fibromyalgia, and the experiences I thought were fibro probably aren't, but a lot of people with fibromyalgia found them very relatable, and I don't want to take that from you guys, but also it's not my place to make fibro videos, so I'm obviously not going to make any more, but I don't know what to do with the ones I have. So if you don't mind, could you let me know in the comments your opinions on what you think I should do with them, because I don't want to feel like a fraud, but I also don't want to. If you find it relatable and you like them, I want to keep them, but I'm going to edit the descriptions as soon as I upload this video to be clear that I don't have it. So yeah, any opinions on that, down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video because I have been through a lot. Subscribe to my channel for more chronic illness goodness, because I'm going to keep updating on this as we go. I don't really know what's going on, but let's just put this kind of journey out there. Ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. Videos go up every Saturday at 6 PM UK time with at least one bonus video every single month. See ya!